All right, I'm gonna go ahead and lead. So we're gonna do the call to order. First agenda item. The Affordable Housing Subcommittee meeting is now commenced. It's January 23rd at 4 p.m. This meeting is being held virtually due to COVID-19 to allow for social distancing and protect the public health. As we continue our efforts in meeting remotely, we ask all commissioners and guests to mute yourselves until called upon to speak to avoid feedback and background noise. For those who have dialed in using the call-in number, to unmute to speak, dial *6 on your phone. Also, prior to speaking, please announce who you are to identify yourself. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. We ask that you only use the chat function to request to speak or to announce you're leaving the meeting so we can track quorum. Also, to comply with the state open meeting laws, attendance and votes will be done by way of roll call using audio, not using the chat function. So we have a pretty thin agenda item today. I was hoping to add 2 other agenda items, but I was too late getting them on the agenda. So we're going to have to talk about those next meeting. So our first agenda item is the call to audience. Megan and Camille, do either of you want to speak? Or any other commission members? Camille would like to speak.
Sure thing, I can unmute her.
Hello, commission, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Jim and commission. I'm actually with the Arizona Center for Empowerment People's First Economy campaign. I'm listening in today as a representative on our housing concerns. And I'm not sure if it's on the agenda or future agendas to dive in and figure out what's going on with development or housing funds that were allocated to the city. I'm just here to follow up for our community members so they know what's going on and can be updated, especially with the upcoming elections and knowing what's going on.
So when you say housing funds allocated to the city, can you explain what you mean by that?
So I am aware that there had, and I want to say 40 million attributed to specifically the state. I want to say 40 million was out to the state for affordable housing. I know that last board meeting I listened in, they were meeting with the development teams and addressing helping with the Tucson house and building affordable homes in the more poverty-stricken areas of the city. I'm just here to follow up and make sure that the funds are being allocated appropriately and follow up and find out what's going on with those housing. I'm trying to find the right words. The houses that have been built and the homes that are planned to be built in the future, if that is the right wording.
So, okay, thank you. I think Sarah Meganson just put her email address on the chat function, Camille. And I'd suggest you follow up with her directly and she can probably help you with some of those questions. It's a fairly complicated ask because there's a lot of different sources and uses of the funding. Marianne?
I was just wondering if Camille could tell us who she's with again.
Yes, I am with the Arizona Center for Empowerment here in Tucson. You guys might know us as ACE. We also are sisters with Lucha. We are just our nonprofit side, the 501c3, instead of a C4 organization, so fully nonpartisan. We're just here to uplift community concerns, and my job is to investigate and update those community members who may have concerns that you guys might have already addressed.
And
Thank you.
Camille, can you see my email now?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah. Yeah, shoot me an email, and then, you know, Jim, once we get info, and if it's an agenda item that you want to add on to the future, Camille, we can work with you, but I'll work offline, and thank you for coming.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, anybody else, Gabby or Megan, either of you wish to speak? Okay, so we have a retreat coming up. Everybody's aware of our retreat coming up on the 2nd? Maybe, yes, Maggie,
Yes. I'll be
Marianne,
there.
okay, good. I made a huge mistake on the date. I signed up for the La Paloma member golf tournament, which happens to be on the same day. And so my poor partner is really unhappy with me that I'm going to miss that afternoon, but do what you got to do, I guess. So, Colleen, I guess, is it just Colleen today?
Nope,
Oh,
Tony's here.
there you are, Tani. I didn't see you. Hi, Tani. Okay, so Colleen and Tani are here with us to talk about the retreat. And so I'm gonna turn it over to you guys.
Great, thanks. So Colleen and I are both with Southwest Decision Resources. We're an independent facilitation group based in Tucson, and we do a lot of work with the city on different things and others. And so we've been brought in to help design and facilitate your retreat. And so part of that is doing these pre-conversations, part of our kind of interviews to better understand all of your perspectives and the issues before we get to the retreat itself. So, and I'm saying what you already know, but so we're have sessions like this with each subcommittee as well as with the whole commission. So, good to meet all of you. And Colleen, did you want to say anything?
No, just it's good to have the chance to speak with you guys kind of in this smaller setting. We've joined a couple of your full commission meetings and that's great, but we're trying to talk to all of the subcommittees and just have a little bit more, informal discussion about kind of how you're feeling things are going and your priorities and issues like Tony said. So thanks for making time for us.
So to get started, if we just have a handful of questions for you. So to get started, if we could just, and also because we don't know all of you, if we could just go around and you could introduce yourself and your own affiliation, how long you've been on this commission and what your interest is in brief in this subcommittee topic. Name, affiliation, how long on the commission, interest in this subcommittee topic. And so I don't know, Jim, if you want to call on people or
Sure.
Everybody here today. And if you're a commission member or an ex officio city, whatever it is.
Sure. Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. By the way, I just realized I forgot to do the roll call, but we kind of did that before we started. So Maggie, Marianne, Corin, Marcos, and Jim Topol are all here. And then Megan, you are an ex officio, correct? On the subcommittee? You're not. You don't think so? Okay.
I'll just chime in real quick. Typically, like in the past, just for everybody's remembrance, because I know the new year, we all forget what happened, but the committee typically had the full committee members, the ex officio members, and then we've consistently included and used to include on the agenda, like people like Megan Headings, David Wool, and sort of just people who we invited to come and provide their expertise to the Affordable Housing Subcommittee. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I was on the old Metropolitan Housing Commission. I think that was like 10 years ago before it was disbanded, which is kind of the predecessor to this commission. I was appointed on this commission when it was restarted 3 years ago. So I have one more year as a chair, and then I can no longer be chair, which I'm looking forward to. But I joined this commission primarily because I I want to see Tucson compete better with the rest of the state for affordable housing dollars. I think historically, if you looked at how funds, affordable housing funds were allocated across the state, Tucson was receiving roughly 9% of the money, and we had 14% of the state's population. And I just wanted to see us do a better job compete down here because we've got a lot of things going against us. Our area median incomes are lower than Phoenix. Our costs are higher, and so it makes it a lot more difficult for projects to work down here, which the impact of that is developers just don't really, you know, especially a lot of out-of-town developers don't really give Tucson a fair shake. Most of them will go to Phoenix. You know, there's 3 huge light tech deals getting built right now in Casa Grande because it's easier to make projects work in Casa Grande than it is in Tucson. And so that was the reason I joined, is we work across the state. So, you know, from my perspective, it doesn't matter if a project's in Tucson or Phoenix or anyplace else. We'll go wherever. But I love Tucson, and I want to see Tucson be successful and compete for the money better than it has historically, and get at least the 14%, if not more, going forward. So who'd like to go next? Marianne?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I initially raised my hand because I want to know why Megan isn't on the commission and if she would consider being part of the Affordable Housing Committee. So has that been discussed?
It has, and it's being worked on. We have 3 openings, and she's under consideration for one of the openings.
All right, well, if I have any say, it would be a yay, but only if she's on the Affordable Housing Committee and I can keep my eye on her. So there's 3 things that are like on my mind with regards to the commission. Advisory, authority, and accountability are the 3 things. Are we advisory only? Do we have any authority? And where is the accountability for what we recommend that got voted on and agreed to by the city council? So those 3 things have been running through my mind, because if the city council, you know, accepts our recommendations and they vote on them and they approve them, then there should be next steps for everybody, the city as well as the commission, because if we want to move things along and progress, we should be able to progress with these recommendations. So I haven't heard much about those recommendations, and so I'm just concerned that, like, we've been having these discussions, we got someplace with it, and then it just kind of gets dropped. So there's no, do we have the authority, you know, as either the housing commission or the full commission, to say, okay, you know, where are you on these things, you know, which creates this accountable relationship between the both parties, because that's what a participatory relationship is about. So that's one thing. The other thing is, oh my gosh, there's just so much rabble and babble sometimes about topics, and we get way off track as a whole commission on the fact that, you know, this is affordable, this is, you know, housing, as well as, equitable, whatever it is. But we can't seem to just focus on a few things and work on those and get progress on those without like folding in all this other stuff that just, by the time we have the discussions over, it's like, what the hell did we just talk about? It's really hard to get people just to focus in. And I think, we're biting off, instead of biting off pieces or looking at, asking the committees to like, okay, you've got this huge thing you're looking at, this huge focus in your group, break it down into parts, and then, let's bite size it and just focus. We're just not doing that. That's my opinion. And then, I was on the Metropolitan Housing Commission well before Jim, and in the very beginning of it. And I'm happy to be, on this commission. And I think some of the topics that we really have to be looking at as a commission, and then as this subcommittee, is, innovative housing. Why does it always have to be tax credits? And the city making some concessions and real changes to creating some more innovative housing, like tiny homes and reuse of, hotels and things like that, as part of its process. So, for instance, Jim was saying that Casa Grande was easier to build, tax credits in Casa Grande. Well, it's easier for us to get a major plan amendment and a rezone to do tiny homes in Eloy than it is to get any movement on it from the city of Tucson. So we're not having those kinds of discussions or success, I don't think, with this commission and with the right city staff. So I think I would hope that the retreat will allow each committee to look at the big picture, but break it down into bite-sized pieces that we decide without going off the rails to work on as a committee, and that the commission as a whole support that, like I would say we do for the other committees. It gets just way lost in the bigger commission meetings. I don't know if I'm making any more sense. I'm starting to rabble and babble now, so I'll stop here. But I saw people shaking their heads, so I think I was on the right track for some of it.
Thank you, Marianne. Nodding or shaking?
Nodding.
Yeah.
Maggie,
Okay,
do you want to go?
go ahead.
Sure. My name is Maggie Amatates. I'm the executive director of the Pima County Community Land Trust. We are a community land trust, which basically promotes permanent affordability. I've been on the commission for, I think, since the beginning, which is 3+ years now or whatever. My interest in being on this subcommittee is as a minority voice promoting homeownership. We talk a lot about, multifamily housing, and I still really believe in affordable homeownership. And my hopes for the for the retreat will be some kind of dialogue along that. I know that, when I brought it up before, there are many other members that are not necessarily housers of the commission, And to have a discussion as to, you know, I just remember, I don't know who said something like, well, it's kind of impossible to be a homeowner right now, and it's really not. And to get, you know, more support from municipal governments, from, you know, as a voice, you know, we have quite a few members to, you know, really talk about subsidizing and providing that piece of grants or whatever it is to, you know, make it affordable. You know, we have LIHTC projects for family housing. And so, you know, we don't have that. That would be kind of nice for affordable homeownership, I guess, although I really don't understand that world. So, but yeah, I think we need to have some more discussions around what is affordable housing and why the different components are so important. You know, multifamily, affordable homeownership, tiny homes, etc. All of the different, you know, ways. I think we have to have a more in-depth conversation, and I would hope that then we would also have a better understanding of, you know, the benefits of all of these different types of housing options. So that's it.
Okay, we should go through the ex officio, so Marcos.
Good evening, Marcos Ismail. I'm with Pima County Community and Workforce Development Department. I'm a housing program manager here, been on the commission since it started. And my interest as an ex officio member is, you know, the county, you know, just to kind of stay in tune, the county has a housing commission. And, you know, my primary interest is on affordable housing production, both rental, home ownership. But, you know, I think I'm also interested in, you know, the larger cycle of housing. And, you know, people go through, some people go through all stages from homelessness to home ownership. But, you know, I think we just have to be mindful of that cycle, and it can be different for everybody. So that's, I think, the challenge in trying to balance things. And, you know, and I think that's it. The Phillies done a good job. Turn it over to officio.
Sarah, you want to go? And we'll finish with Corin.
Yeah, I'm the staff liaison, Sarah Miegeson. I don't even know how to talk. Sorry. New way to pronounce my name. So yeah, staff liaison to the Affordable Housing Subcommittee. I sit on the Pima County Regional Affordable Housing Commission. And yeah, just here to provide staff support, but also obviously very passionate and ignited about housing and affordability for Tucson.
Okay, thanks, Corin.
I'm Corin Manning, Deputy Director of Planning and Development Services. And I've been on the commission since it started 3 years ago. And I think our interest, PDSD, is allowing and facilitating and promoting all types of housing in our community, more diversity of housing. So not just affordable housing, but how can we also foster more workforce housing, market rate housing, really that whole spectrum. So we really want to work with this committee and the whole commission on what are some of the tools we can bring to the table to enable that. So yeah, that's really our role here.
All right. Megan, do you want to introduce yourself, or you want to take a pass?
Introduce.
I'm happy to if it's appropriate. I'm not sure what's.
Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit more informal. Yeah.
And hi, Colleen. I haven't seen you in a long time. Colleen and I used to work at the food bank together years and years ago. So I'm Megan Headings. I am the executive director for Family Housing Resources, and I would say my interest here is very similar to what everyone else has already said. I think specifically on this subcommittee, the lack of supply of affordable housing in Tucson is incredibly concerning, and obviously that ranges from deeply affordable rental as well as moving into home ownership. My organization does do housing counseling and first-time home buyer support. So we're very dedicated to getting first-time home buyers into housing, which is becoming more and more challenging and further away from many. And then also trying to get back into the development of new affordable housing, utilizing LIHTC and bond programs. And that learning curve and that process is incredibly intimidating and challenging and harder for nonprofits, I think, to do. And I see the landscape of a lot of, there is actually, I think Jim is correct. Even a couple of years ago, when I first started participating in this, we really were challenged in Tucson in getting more affordable housing developers to come to Tucson. And the state is getting a lot more competitive, which is both a good thing and what we wanted, and also a little like, you know, now how do you control that in a functional way in our community and continue to have it be productive? And then I think you'll start getting into more of the work needed on equity and access, continuing access. And so I think that's probably the basis of where my desires land. And hopefully, you know, I think this is such a complex problem. Unfortunately, the last couple of years is we have not made much headway. I think that many people have gotten further from having access to housing they can afford. So.
Is that everybody?
Lauren maybe just joined.
Yeah, I don't know. Lauren, I don't know. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm a planner with the Planning and Development Services Department, and I'm going to be helping with a lot of the HCD projects. And I'm helping to develop an outline or a process guide for streamlining some of these affordable housing projects.
Great. Well,
Love
thanks.
that.
Yeah. All right, that's everyone, right? Jim?
Yes.
Okay, so we wanted to next ask you about your stated affordable housing subcommittee goals. I don't know how like memorized they are, but we understand there's 3 of them. Colleen's going to put them in the chat. We just want to hear from you how you feel you're doing on progress towards those goals, and how, and you don't have to talk one by one. You can, she's just putting them all in there. And any thoughts you have? I mean, Marianne, you already kind of launched into your thoughts about what needed improving and just how the whole thing works. But any thoughts on what you know, how your progress on these goals currently, what you think you should be focusing on within that, if it's like a smaller bite within the bigger, or just any reflections you have on the purpose and goals of your subcommittee. So not the overall commission, but your subcommittee. And we could go around, or you could just chime in if you have some thoughts, and then, but it would be great to hear from the members.
I have some thoughts, but I don't want to dominate. So somebody else go first.
That's what a good leader does. Let other people go first.
I want to address the number 3, the delivering of sufficient number of new affordable housing units within the city of Tucson. And I know that in past discussions, we wanted to have a good inventory. Did we ever do that of like how many units? And I specifically, I think, were the homeownership units. I don't know if that was ever done, because we don't, you know, in the recommendations that we provided in that spreadsheet that we were working on, I think, you know, affordable homeownership units were stuck at 94, which are just land trusts. And it's gone up since then. So a real good count of affordable homeownership units.
So Maggie, just so you know, that was the other agenda item I wanted to put on the agenda for today that we didn't get. So we're close, I think, in terms of coming up with that number, and it was 15,000 units by 2030. I think we need to, there was a couple of action items coming back from the overall commission meeting last time we talked about it. So I have an updated document I wanted to review, but I'm assuming we'll do that at our next meeting. But I think we're pretty close on coming up with that number.
Well, I know that Land Trust we were blessed in that we were given houses as part of Pima County, City of Tucson, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, we received 23 single-family homes. And as they become vacant, we are making those affordable homeownership units. So there'll be an additional 5. Currently, we're closing on the 2nd. So those 94 are now 96, I think. And another 3. So I just, I would, and then that doesn't include, Habitat's numbers, and I don't know, other affordable homeownership units. Specifically, homeownership, I think, has been this kind of a number that has not been, I don't know if it's just that because they're not able to keep track of those. I don't know. I don't know what the reason is, but, I think there are a few out there, and that would help us then to have realistic, goals moving forward.
Mary Ann?
Hold on, I gotta pull the chat up. So we did provide a set of recommendations to the mayor and council that were approved. And we've been talking about identifying new funding opportunities for affordable housing, being the housing trust fund, and then there's been more recent discussion on a bond and working with Pima County on that. So I really would like to see, the city and the county be able to do something together to deliver, more impact and education. And where I get, and maybe this is different than some people on the commission, but I feel like this is a place for commission members and city and county staff to be able to work together. Educating the public, going out, and educating people. And that's where that authority or versus advisory comes in, is like, I don't know that we're quote unquote allowed to do that kind of stuff. And, it would be great if that would be a discussion actually for our February 9th, or February 2nd meeting. Is this affordable housing funding, but what our role is to make that happen as a commission, what our role is.
Thanks.
So I mean, I basically agree with everything that Maggie and Mary Ann said. I do believe we provided a good set of recommendations to mayor and council. There hasn't been much movement on those. And one of the recommendations, as Mary Ann said, was this affordable housing bond initiative. And the mayor has directed us, and I'm sure she's going to talk about this at the retreat, that we need to try to work closer with the county on that. And so Marcos, there's, I think maybe we should talk offline, but there was some discussion about maybe trying to get the CEHD together with the county Affordable Housing Commission for a joint meeting at some point this year, and maybe explore, options of trying to work together on establishing a bond. the thing that I struggle with right now looking forward is there's really, there's only so many things that can be done. And sometimes it feels like we take 2 steps forward and 1 step backwards. Where we do some things that help and then we do some things that hurt ourselves. And I struggle with how do we really make an impact, and how do we really move the needle on this, because all of our time is valuable. This is a volunteer activity for all of us, and I want to really make sure that what we are doing is providing value and is making a positive impact. And sometimes it's hard to see that, it's hard to measure that. I think that's where some of the frustration comes in here. And I've heard a number of people express that, and it's kind of come out in different forms, but at the end of the day, I think, some of the things that we need to do a little bit better going forward is we need to, I do believe that we are making a difference. When I take a look at like the last couple of rounds of LIHTC deals and the number of projects coming out of the ground, I do believe we are making a difference, and we need to do a better job promoting our wins, and celebrating our successes. I think that's important. The other, I think, real thing that we struggle with as a group is everybody is coming from a different background. Everybody has different priorities. And so it's hard, in terms of just staying focused, and, everybody wants different focus, and it sometimes feels like herding cats with the overall group, because there's so many different competing priorities on the commission. And I think that is another challenge that we have as a group. So I'm not sure if that helps or not, but.
Yeah, thanks. This is all helpful. So it would be useful to hear from the city as well, your thoughts about the subcommittee and the work of the subcommittee and these goals, how it can be improved. Any thoughts you have?
Were you meaning from the county?
County and city, how about?
That's well, I'll chime in real quick just on starting off with what Jim had mentioned with the bond issue. I'm still not sure how our finance team feels about a bond election. I'm not sure if there's interest or political will. I think that's something a discussion we really haven't delved into, other than, hearing that, of course, everybody on both commissions would be in support of it. But the challenge for the county is that, we failed in our try at the last bond election. The city didn't. So I think that's still weighing heavily on, a couple of the commissioners. Actually, there's only one that was there now, but we've got a whole new group of commissioners now. And so, but the other challenge is we're coming up on an election year, and it's very political process for the county. We can only go to the voters in November during a general election, which makes it very challenging. So, just looking back at our history and when we've done elections for, when we've tried it, it's always been on an off year. So it would have, if we were going to do it now, it would either be 2023 or 2025. So 2023, I think, is we're way past, being able to do it this year. But now would be the time to start working on it for 2025. Potentially even, 2026. Definitely don't want to do it during a general election, but ideally on an off year when there's not a presidential or a midterm election is the best probability of success for the county, unless the legislature changes the rules again and we can go in May. But we can't. So I think that's why you've seen our Board of Supervisors approve allocations from our general fund over the last couple years. You know, and I'm not sure where we're at with our current, you know, debt ratios. But, you know, it would take a detailed evaluation by our CIP finance team, you know, before we would start moving on it. But, you know, I think but we can't underestimate, you know, the will of the people. I think if our elected officials hear from the constituents and there's enough support, you know, anything's possible. I don't know if we can do a joint bond issue, like we've done with mortgage revenue bonds. That's a totally, you know, tax exempt bonds are a different animal than general obligation bonds. So I don't know if that's even a possibility, like we've been able to do with mortgage revenue bonds. But so it might end up having to be separate, you know, bond initiatives if it can't be done jointly. But you know, that's the issue around that. But I think there's other possibilities that the city and county can pursue, as far as funding streams that could support a city and both city and county housing trust fund. So I think that's something that I'd like to see our commission work on more, as well as the cities. But I'm definitely going to be lobbying for that, you know, in interdepartmentally here with my counterparts at the county. But you know, it's there's always a lot of other factors that come into play with these. But you know, and I think, you know, just, you know, to be fair, I think the city's commission has, looking at the 3 goals, I think there have been a set of recommendations provided. Those recommendations included new funding opportunities. And I do remember going through the exercise of goals for affordable housing units. And I thought we had done both home ownership and rental within that. So, you know, I think we're, you know, looking at those 3 basic goals, I think we're on track. But I think there's also more that we can do, especially in the areas of identifying new funding opportunities, you know, for affordable housing, short-term, long-term. And I really think that, you know, I think we have to look at all the tools, but you know, I think a lot of maybe too much weight is being put on a bond election. And I think we need to also pursue other potential funding streams that can support housing trust funds, with both the city and the county. So with that.
Corin?
Yeah, so the original question was, what's the value, like what's our value?
The Affordable Housing Subcommittee,
Yeah, for this.
and maybe progress on these 3 goals, how you you know, adjust
Yeah.
things.
So
improve things.
I think they're good, and I mean, I kind of like the goals. And because I feel like they're broad enough to include kind of like the land use policy that's more the PDSD realm, as well as funding and housing strategies. And I think that really part of the key is like making sure there's the regulatory piece as well as the funding piece, that both of those are working together. And so to me, what I see is the value of not just this committee, but the commission, kind of like to your point, Jim, of like, what are we getting out of this, the time we're investing? Like, to me, ideally, the commission should be this synergistic effect of like promoting more alignment between government, public sector, our private sector development community, and then like the nonprofit and you know, other affordable housing advocates and groups. And so, as well as just like community, other interested parties. So to me, that's really the goal of the commission, is to ensure we're kind of all going in the same direction, working together. So when we're considering like zoning change or land use changes or a neighborhood plan policy, we can make sure we're going in the right direction. We're promoting policies that are actually going to have a meaningful impact. And you guys are really the ones to tell us that. And we need your feedback to make sure our work is valuable. And vice versa, we need you to tell us what are those tools you need. I mean, so I feel like it should be mutually beneficial. And I think that's the place we want to get to. But I think like from what I'm hearing is that's what we're trying to do through the retreat is kind of further that alignment so that we can maintain that as a commission. And so, yeah, to me, that's where I see the value of the commission and this subcommittee. So yeah, I always want to hear the feedback and thoughts and ideas for what else PDSD can do to help create more of those tools. And we want your input as we're doing that on, you know, are these going to be meaningful and have the impact we desire? So I think the goals are good, actually.
Do you, and
Oh.
just, oh, sorry, Jim.
Well, I was gonna just kind of follow up, Corin. Can I ask you like two kind of sub questions?
Yeah. Mhm.
So from our recommendations that we previously made, the second recommendation was to direct development services to review and change zoning regulations in order to encourage affordable housing projects. Specifically, we recommend attention be paid to project density, setback requirements, building height, and a more streamlined process for zoning changes. And then the second one was the fast track
Mhm.
approval process, which we just, Lauren said she was working on, which is great. In relation to those two items and specifically, is there things that this subcommittee you'd like this subcommittee to help, or is there things that we can do to help with those two goals?
Yeah, so as Lauren mentioned, we are actually working on the fast track program right now. So one thing we'd like to do is, you know, maybe in the February or March meeting, kind of bring you guys a draft proposal and get your feedback on, you know, does this work? What are some of the complications we might not be thinking about, that kind of thing. And same with the zoning changes. So we are working on that. We've actually gotten actually Mayor and Council sort of expanded that direction to create zoning tools to facilitate more multifamily development along corridors with special preference and tools for affordable housing. So that's what we're working on right now. And same thing, like over the next few months, we're going to be really developing that proposal and would love to get feedback from this group. So we do plan to come back to the Affordable Housing Subcommittee and get input on both of those. And that's really, I think, would be ideal is kind of like have that iterative process where you guys give the high level policy goals to Mayor and Council, where there's agreement with Mayor and Council, they, you know, give the direction to staff, and then we work on shaping it with this subcommittee, kind of like shaping the details.
That sounds great. Mary Ann?
I just want to thank Corin for, I kind of feel like we just got more in focus by what she's saying with, you know, wanting the feedback and stuff like that. And I really want to also say that if it can come back to the subcommittee, you know, for these kinds of discussions so that it doesn't get lost in the bigger commission, because their focus is on, you know, other stuff too. You know, I would really appreciate that. I mean, I know it'll go to the commission, the whole commission, but I think being able to study it and have some feedback and ask questions on this committee will make this committee much more interesting and productive. So thank you.
Sarah?
Yeah, I don't know what to say. It's an interesting role as staff, you know, and have struggled with also how much I'm supposed to provide and influence versus, just support. And so I think, just from the perspective of what is staff's responsibility in terms of the goals and supporting the committee on those, I think would be helpful, so that it's a little more clear. I do think, we sometimes talk in circles, and as someone who just mostly tries to listen and to keep up and to make sure that there's deliverable actions out of it, sort of, I think the fact that we're doing this, but coming back to the goals and maybe doing that on a more annual repetitive basis. Like Corin mentioned, their goals are good. And I think we've done a lot. I think we get lost in it sometimes. And it's a deep water sort of environment where we're out here trying to make a difference. And I think we have done a lot of good work, but get lost out there in the deep water trying to think of things. And, you don't see things happen overnight. So what can we do to support the committee to make sure that they recognize the work that they're doing on the goals and, report outs and stuff like that. I think it's hard to come up with solutions sometimes in committee. So, I do feel like there has been some difficulty getting to, especially around the Housing Trust Fund. And I think that's where I've struggled the most, is that's something that I'm tasked with trying to revive. And it is difficult to work through that with the bond and just being completely candid. And one thing, Jim, I remember you stating at the last full commission meeting when we talked about the Housing Trust Fund, sort of that, is, and this kind of ties to what Mary Ann said about what is the role, advisory, authoritative, or, where's the accountability? And I kind of agree, and wondering, like, it was sort of stated that the mayor would want the city to work with the county to get a bond passed. But I've also heard that maybe it would be easier to get a bond passed just in the city, politically speaking, right? And so is it the committee and commission's duty to make recommendations to the mayor and council that may be in discord with what they want, because we are the experts and we are the people tasked with trying, not we, but you all are tasked with trying to find the solution, so when does that advisory versus authority come into play? And I sort of see that as like a critical piece of this. Are you supposed to do what mayor and council want us to do? And I know Megan, and we deal with that with the Pima County, board as well. So, yeah, I think that's just sort of my quick thought of just making sure that I really appreciated that advisory authority accountability piece, and making sure that we know where the ties are, and giving the committee credit where credit is deserved, where things have happened. With Lauren being here tonight and knowing that these things are happening, it's good. And I think we deserve to see that more. And so capacity to showcase that and really bring that to light, I think would be really helpful.
Excellent. This is very helpful. Megan.
I don't know if I'm able to jump in, but I just wanted to piggyback off of what Sarah was saying. The thought that has come up in my mind as everyone was speaking is a little bit of the advocacy piece as well. So, this commission is, I think, challenged with sort of being like having that conversation between mayor and council, and who are we advocating? They created a commission, and so you're serving at their pleasure, but then is it advocating on their behalf, or is it advocating back to them, and having some more clarity around some of that role? And then also, broadly speaking, affordable housing is incredibly expensive. And let's be honest, the biggest hurdle we all have is funds, and how do we get funds to do more of this work? And so where does that piece in this kind of in those goal settings and in that conversation happen, and how can we be as effective as we need to be with very limited funds in the community, and making sure that mayor and council know and understand that from the offset, and that the broader community does. And then, does this commission have a role in advocating more to the public? Are there things that can be happening? Should it be a bond? Should it be, other like there, when the ADU process was going forward, making sure some of those initiatives are really have public support, some of those initiatives, and have clarity around sort of, here's some of the activity that can happen and should be happening. This is why we need to support it. Those are just initial thoughts though of some of the conflict that has already come up. But I do think Mary Ann's point very early on was like, I wrote it down as well. I think there's been a lack of clarity around, is this, you know, what is the role of the commission ultimately? And is there any authority? Is it, you know, advisory? Is it, what's the accountability? And having clarity around that before even those goals are set would be really helpful.
Mary Ann.
So I also want to thank Sarah for what she said. I think our, you know, the mayor has asked us to do something, so we do it, and we do our research and our investigation, and then we recommend. So, you know, I don't know that a bond deal between the city and the county can't work. I think what we do is we pull the experts together from the city and the county, and, you know, hear about what the processes are, why it could work, why it won't work. And then as this commission has gathered that information by being able to have those kinds of conversations, we make the recommendation. So I don't see it as opposing, you know, something, you know, at all. I think when she asked us to work more with the county, that's what this is. You know, it's doing this research, having the right people from the county talk about, you know, the legalities of it, whether or not it would work. Is this a big initiative for, you know, the whole of Pima County that includes the city, that includes South Tucson, you know, and then we come back with discussion and make the recommendation. So I think her ask is good, and I think we can learn a lot. I mean, I don't know any of us who really know a bit about what it's like to put a bond initiative together. So that is just going to educate this commission even more so, and be a very good thing for us to take a look at. So that's all I've got. Thanks.
So this is all really helpful. Oh, go ahead, Marcos.
Yeah, you know, I want to thank you for those comments, Mary Ann. But what's needed, I think, is the next step is you know, I think the city manager and the county administrator need to have a discussion regarding the bonds. And you know, I think if we can get, you know, both of those entities to start a discussion between the city and county, I think it really needs to start at that level. And then I think go from there. But if we can get our, you know, like I said, our county administrator's office, city manager's office to put it on their agenda, you know, I know they meet regularly. So you know, I'd like to see it elevated to that level. And you know, I can go to my immediate, you know, supervisor and see if she can take it up the ladder. And, you know, I don't know if it'll get any traction, but I can try. And you know, see, and you know, maybe it takes both, you know, the city staff, you know, making the suggestion to the mayor's office, and I don't know who reaches out to who first, but I think that's where that discussion needs to start or go next.
Mary Ann.
I actually disagree with Marcos. I think if we could have, you know, the attorneys from both be present in a commission meeting where they're telling us the ins and the outs of all of this, you know, if she asked us to work with them, we should be getting educated, and just find out, you know, from them or anyone else who, who would be involved in something like this, what the ins and outs are and what the pros and cons are and why we couldn't and shouldn't. So I just think that it should come, this education process, this is part of the reason why I'm on this commission, is, I want to learn and hear from the, the city and the county experts, about this. I don't think there's any problem with them coming to a commission meeting first, or, we don't even know if we want to pursue something like a combo. I think we should be able to have them meet with us without going up a bureaucratic process.
So if we could shift over to a final question that we have, which is really about what you would like to get out of the retreat. What do you think some of the things that we should focus on? Because you're talking already about, really tangible kind of components of these things that you should do, like having joint meeting, that kind of thing. So if you want to just reflect about the retreat, we could reshare the retreat agenda with you, but we really want to hear from you about what are some of your highest priority elements of what we would focus on and hopefully get some agreement on at the retreat.
Well, I like what Corin brought to the table about, we made the recommendations, the city is doing the work, and what Sarah said about communicating in with us, because, we just don't know what's going on and if it's being worked on and things like that. And then, what the process is or what the progress is, and then being able to come back with the final draft or the drafts to talk to the commission. So I think that's one thing. And I just think in overall is defining, are we advisory? Are we, what are we? And what happens to our recommendations, and also, is it presumptuous or not a good thing to want to have city and county attorneys or other people from outside of the housing departments come back and talk to us so that we can get educated? Is that, appropriate, I guess is the word for us? And do we agree that, that's the kind of stuff we're going to do?
Are you talking about attorneys kind of related to your advisory versus having some authority role, or related to other things?
I just think related to this one topic, for instance, that was just brought up regarding, the city and the county working together on funding through a mutual bond, or what, Marcos had said earlier about the city and the county working together on a housing trust fund. I think in order for us to understand if and how those both can work, we'd like to have those authorities come and speak to us about that. And I think, to me, that feels appropriate, and it educates this group, and it also respects this group, by taking us seriously.
Marcos, what do you think about the retreat?
Yeah, I think it's we can have the discussion on that. But I don't know, maybe we have a different process here than the city does. But there's protocols, and before we can engage our county attorney's civil division, we have to go through our county administrator's office. So, and I could you know, jump or skip that step, but I would be reprimanded for not informing. If the county administrator finds out we're having this discussion without him knowing about it, or she knowing about it, then that's not a good thing for us. So that was my intent in, you know, just saying we need to involve those offices, at least on our end, we do. And, you know, the other problem we have is our legal team. We typically use a consultant, a bond consultant, when it comes to matters for the bond. And that requires the authority of the county administrator to engage the consultant. So, but, you know, I am happy to, I was involved in administering, you know, general obligation bonds for the county. All of the 2004 bonds that went for affordable housing, and the tail end of the 97 bonds. I was also involved in our failed attempt in 2015. So I'm fairly familiar with the process that's involved at the county level. I'm happy to share that information at the retreat if, you know, the rest of the group feels it's helpful. And, you know, I don't know if the city's process is, but maybe someone on the city side that has been involved with, you know, general obligation bonds that the city has issued could do the same. And so we could have a discussion started at that level. And, you know, I'm happy to share all the information that I have regarding, you know, administering a couple previous rounds of bonds. And then I think the experience of trying to get our bonds approved in 2015, where we failed, was a good learning experience for us. And that experience will definitely help us when, and you know, if and when we decide to try again.
All right, thanks. So Marcus, and I would say, being a newcomer to your whole group, of course, but it seems like at the retreat, we wouldn't want to get into all the weeds of the planning for a bond and analyzing how to do it. You might have decide that you want to pursue it and get more information, et cetera, but not, we have really, working on the agenda, we really have limited time. And so we really do want to focus on helping you, you know, get a sense of your priorities and improve your working relationship with the city and the county and the commission, et cetera. So, and you're going to be at the retreat, right, Marcos?
Yes, I'm fine. But yeah,
also you'll be at the retreat.
Yeah, you know, and I agree with all the comments that have been made, and and so I think it's going to be a good experience for you know, for all the members to kind of connect and refocus, and you know, maybe help refocus on the priorities. And I think hearing the comments, that's what's needed, and you know, maybe why we've drifted from time to time. So
yeah, it should be good. Maggie.
Well, I'd kind of like to go more basic. I think we have you know, 3 committees, and so we all have, I'm sure you've had these discussions with all of the committees, but you know, we have a huge, obviously, affordable housing issue in our community. And I think, you know, I'd like to have discussion on, you know, not maybe, I don't know, what is affordable housing, the types of affordable housing, the pros and cons for the different, you know, I argue for affordable home ownership, and other people are talking about affordable multifamily. And I wonder if, you know, I don't really, and then since we've been together, it's been through COVID and what have you, we really never met many of the committee members. And so, you know, I'd like to understand where they're coming from. And, you know, it's kind of a good opportunity for all of us to educate each other on our roles, and also, you know, why we prioritize what we prioritize. What are the pros and cons? I don't know. Just, I don't know how much time we have to get into that, but I still feel that we need to do something like that to establish common ground of some sort. Because when it comes to, doing a bond, what are we gonna do the bond, what are we gonna use the bond for, affordable housing is a very broad topic, so how do we drill down to, what exactly does that mean and what does it look like? I don't know, I feel like we're still, everyone's kind of have their priorities, and I'd like to see if we can kind of create some common ground. I don't know. That's my feel.
Good.
Thanks.
Well, we planned in some more extended introductions, so that's good. Who else has a thought?
You guys kind of know where I'm coming from, but I'll just say a couple quick things. First of all, Maggie, I completely agree with you about meeting in person. I think these virtual meetings, a lot gets lost. And just having everybody's undivided attention is too easy to check emails and do other things in virtual meetings. And so I sometimes feel like, we have half of everyone's attention, which makes us less effective as a group. We talked to the mayor specifically about accountability. If the commission is not specifically accountable for something, I wasn't sure. What I told her was I didn't know that it was going to be around permanently. It's, there's a lot of different people coming from a lot of different perspectives, and if we don't have some tangible direction from mayor and council, it will be a challenge for this commission to last long term. And that's one of the things that I really liked about our last meeting, was the fact that they brought the commission in on the decision criteria for the home fund awards. I thought that was great. There were some process improvements that could be made through that, but allowing the commissioners to listen to the developers who were making an ask and to chime in and be a part of the process. I thought that was great. And I'd love to see those types of things continue. And then, for me personally, I guess, in terms of looking forward and what I'd like to get out of it, I would like to see more interaction with mayor and council. So either having, if not council members themselves attend, like one meeting every quarter or something like that. So we don't want everybody coming to every meeting, but I think it'd be good to have a council member attend a meeting every 2 to 3 months to hear what we're talking about and to be able to chime in and help us with that direction on an ongoing basis. I think that would be helpful. And then really it's just, it's continuing to kind of fine tune the goals that we've been talking about. I think that's we got some pretty good direction on the equity side from the mayor. I think Jay was really happy with some of the things that he heard in terms of defining the areas in the city with the highest need and trying to direct, what should be our next, if we have a corridor where we want to try to develop, we think it's underserved, where is that, and try to help fine tune focus areas on where we should be developing affordable housing in the city. And then, for us, I agree with what Margot said, is let's look for, other funding opportunities. I think the reason that the bond keeps coming to the forefront is because that's going to have the biggest impact. Flagstaff's bond initiative provided $25 million to the city of Flagstaff. City of Phoenix is looking at the bond initiative right now for affordable housing. A lot of other communities are doing that. And so there's a part of me that feels like, well, if we don't do that, we're going to fall further behind. And that's part of the reason that I keep harping on it, is I want to make sure that we're kind of doing our part to at least keep up with the rest of the state. So.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jim. Any others of you have some thoughts about the retreat? And can you also raise your hand if you're going to be at the retreat? And Maggie? Yeah, and Rachel?
I'm not sure if I'll be planning to be at the retreat, but depending, I might be with HCD staff.
Okay. And, okay,
What-
that's,
What about Megan?
Megan did not raise her hand.
I'm uncertain, but I potentially may be there.
Excellent. Lauren, were you?
Yes, at this point in time, I plan on being there.
Okay. Excellent. Any other comments about what you want to, specific things that would be useful to cover at the retreat? If you didn't yet chime in. So I think those are the main questions that we had right now. We didn't want to take up your whole 2 hours of the subcommittee. So we can let you continue on with your light agenda. Maybe you're finished now.
Yeah,
don't
we're pretty close.
But we really
So-
appreciate this time. Thanks.
Yeah, okay, well, I'm okay finishing early, guys. So our next Affordable Housing Subcommittee meeting is gonna be February 21st, and then March 20th. We have a commission meeting next week on the 1st, and then our retreats on the 2nd. So there's 2 agenda items I was hoping to get on today's agenda. I'm gonna propose those for our next meeting. One is I want to revisit the housing goal, the affordable housing goal, the 15,000 apartments in the city of Tucson, or sorry, Maggie, I didn't mean to say apartments. 15,000 affordable housing units in the city of Tucson by the year 2030. And then I was hoping we could get a recap from HCD on the Home Fund Awards and where that stands and where that's going. And maybe we'll do that at the overall commission meeting. Are there any other topics that you guys would like to see on our next agenda? Marianne?
Yes, actually, it's not a topic. Marcos, I want to apologize to you if my disagreeing with you came across like you were wrong, or I didn't mean to put you off. I did really think you were suggesting that we not pursue a conversation between the 2 commissions until the city and the county make a decision as to whether or not they even want to do this. I don't care if they want us to or not. I think I really want us to be able to learn more and then still suggest that if we think as a commission that it should be a collaborative effort. So my apologies, if I offended you or made you feel like you were wrong.
No, no worries. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer on that subject. Yeah, it's just that I know how complicated it can be, and I'm probably a little gun shy from having our last attempt fail. So but yeah, no, I think it's a discussion we should have, yes.
All right, are there any other topics that you guys, we're probably gonna come up with something, I'm guessing, at the retreat. So we don't have to come up with stuff now, but if you guys think of additional topics, email me, copy Neto if you could, because he puts the agendas together. So anything else before we adjourn? All right, well, everybody go outside and enjoy this wonderful weather we're having.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
Maggie,
Thanks,
you look
everyone.
good.
I do. Woo.
Yeah, you
I
look
did my
good.
hair.
I like it.
Thanks. Have a
Okay,
good
bye.
evening. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.